Bank Farmer Scheme crucial to job creation and food sufficiency.
A minister comes to make a proposal. It is mandatory that that minister must include the number of jobs that will be generated.
FRSC to step up enforcement on use of speed limiting devices.
And Nigeria records new COVID-19 infections.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss ASU strike and bridging the academic deficit.
After what seemed like eternity, particularly for tertiary school students as well as their parents and guardians, the Academic Staff Union of Universities last week announced a conditional suspension of its 9-month-old strike to press home its demand for university lecturers to be removed from the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, IPPIS, among other things.
It was a prolonged face-off this time around between the federal government and ASU, as both sides refused to blink for a time long enough to carry, the pregnancy, and also long enough to carry the pregnancy and enough for an academic session. And like the saying goes, when two elephants fight, the grass suffers.
Indeed, Nadabo, in this case, the students make up the grass and have been at the receiving end of the ASU federal government face-off. Now, this is not the first time ASU will embark on a long industrial action. If you recall, in 1988, ASU declared a nationwide strike that lasted for about 21 months and several others down memory lane. But to say the least, industrial actions by university lecturers have become insistent and a nagging issue in our national life.
Of course, you're quite nagging indeed, especially when you consider the fact that children and relations of both sides, that is ASU and the federal government, are also affected by such strike actions, which have created academic backlog for students and the university system in general over the decades.
Now, while the terms of a 2009 agreement between the federal government and ASU have always been a bone of contention, this time around funding for the revitalization of universities, earned allowances of ASU members, the shortfall in salaries, visitation panel for universities, and the use of the University Transparency and Accountability Solution (UTAS) were among issues on the negotiation table.
And the federal government, on its part, has promised not to renege on the consensus already reached during negotiations. But ASU has already indicated it will go back to the trenches if there is any breach on the agreements.
Well, insistent strikes have really dealt a blow to the psyche of the average Nigerian student in public tertiary institutions who is not certain of graduation day owing to prolonged industrial action. And going by ASU's recent suspension of its 9-month-old strike, is it yet uhuru for students? What are the issues on the table? How will the academic backlog be cleared and the lost ground recovered?
Now, we shall seek answers to these questions and more in the course of today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Yusuf Nadabo Usman, welcoming you to the program, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, from the nation's capital, that is Abuja.
And I am Juma Yusuf, joining Nadabo to welcome you to the last Monday edition of Good Morning Nigeria in the year 2020. Indeed, the year has been quite challenging, but thanks be to God who has brought us this far. We shall bring you other complementary segments in the course of the program, but first let's begin with the highlights of the news with Ayodeji Makinde, the latest father in town. How does it feel like being a nursing father, Ayodeji? You should be on paternity leave, actually. No?
It's actually challenging, but very, very interesting. Good morning, Jumaya Nadabo. Here is the morning news. The presidency has reaffirmed that the recently launched National Young Farmers Scheme, an initiative of National Agricultural Land Development Authority by President Muhammadu Buhari to engage 1,000 youth in each of the 774 local government areas in agriculture, has the capacity to create jobs, ensure food sufficiency, and maintain the sector's position as the largest contributor to the nation's gross domestic product. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, disclosed this while on a working visit to Abeokuta.
Job creation is central to the heart of this government. Each time we hold a Federal Executive Council meeting and a minister comes to make a proposal, it is mandatory that minister must include the number of jobs that will be generated. Agriculture, you have the Young Farmer Scheme that has been introduced, you have the Anchor Borrowers Program, you have many policies that have been introduced that will yield jobs.
Following a careful review of the first phase of the end-of-the-year special patrol by personnel of the FRSC, the Corps Marshal Boboye Oyeyemi expresses deep concerns over the overspeed-related crashes recorded within the period and directs commanding officers to step up enforcement of the law on use of speed-limiting devices. In a statement, the Corps Marshal expressed satisfaction with the conduct of most drivers and the performance of the personnel in containing the rate of fatalities within the period of Christmas celebration, despite massive public enlightenment by the Corps on the menace of speed-induced crashes. The situation is yet unabated. To this end, the Corps Marshal has directed officers to step up enforcement of regulations on use of speed-limiting device in the second phase of the special operations and first quarter of next year to drastically force down the growing trend of speed-induced crashes. The 72-hour closure of the third mainland bridge in Lagos did not present the overwhelming gridlock envisaged. However, some residents are still finding it difficult to navigate the city as the bridge is an easy gateway for movement between the island and mainland axis of the city.
I will need to stretch myself down to Ido to connect back to third mainland bridge, and it will cost me a lot of fuel. If I'm flying it from this way to Iyanoworo now, you know the cost of the fuel. It should not be more than 5-10 minutes, but now I'll be spending like 30 minutes to connect to Iyanoworo.
I think the most important thing is that it's being repaired. If this is not repaired and the bridge collapse one day, we're all in trouble. If I take care now, it's probably going to take me a faster time to get to where I'm going compared to any other day. So I have no issue with it. Additional 10 minutes, I'm back to where I'm going.
This year's Yuletide in Port Harcourt and environs is devoid of the usual field cues that characterize festive seasons in the past. Notwithstanding the availability of the product, commercial transporters are, however, exploiting members of the public who embarked on travel to their countrysides to mark the 2020 festivities.
It's fine that the government has tried, there is no queue, but as an oil producing nation, we want to buy fuel cheaper, not because there is no queue, the fuel should be high.
Everything is moving fine now because the other time you feel to buy fuel there will be embarrassment and such, all such of that, but now everything is okay.
I feel good, but it's still expensive. I drive car every day, nothing come out. See, I just bought fuel before, I'm buying again.
Moving on now, 140 youth in Lagos State have been equipped with relevant skills on transforming waste to wealth for financial empowerment. This training was championed by the United States Consulate.
All these things have been dumping around, they're actually money.
Keep our environment clean by cleaning our gutters and taking off the waste from those areas.
Some people are complaining that they don't have jobs, but with the waste that you generate to your house, you can also feed yourself.
Upcycling, you're actually telling people that you want them to creatively reuse their waste materials into functional products of high environmental value.
We need to empower our youths, not just to seek employment, but for them to be self-employed and at the end of the day also be employers of labor.
838 new COVID-19 infections have been recorded in Nigeria within the past 24 hours. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says the new infections were discovered in 16 states and the Federal Capital Territory, bringing the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Nigeria to 84,414. Among the new cases, FCT recorded 297, Lagos 253, Plateau 82, Kaduna 57, Katsina 32, Nasarawa 31, Kano 25, Gombe 24, Oyo and River States 8 cases, Zamfara 7, Ogun, Bauchi and Edo states recorded 4 cases each, while Anambra and Sokoto has 1 case apiece. Active cases nationwide have increased to 12,126, while total cases discharged are 71,034. Sadly, the death toll has also risen to 1,254. And that's the morning news. The program continues with Nadabo and Jumai, but first we need to go for a break.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years, the creation of 75 billion naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths, and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survivor Fund, through which government is A. Paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. Paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. Giving a grant of 30,000 naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the product of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic. Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency. The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
all-new Close-Up Everfresh. Wait, what's new? It now has triple fresh formula that cleans, protects, and cools. Thanks to a combination of 1. Purifying gel, 2. Antibacterial formula, 3. Ice cool crystals that cleans deeply, fights up to 99% of bacteria, and intensely cools to keep you protected and fresh long after brushing. Close Up Triple Fresh Formula cleans, protects, and cools.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool!
Wow!
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Let's now join our correspondent Chimobi Walter Naji for some business news.
Stakeholders have advocated an increased participation of women in meaningful economic activities of the country as a way of attaining financial stability and strengthening the nation's economy. They were speaking against the backdrop of the research carried out by the World Bank on the participation rate of women in economic activities. They noted that women contribute greatly to nation building and development, hence the need to empower them financially.
The research says participation in economic activity. We have a stereotype in this part of the world. We think that jobs are what government provides, and then you go there and you get paid and you go home. That was ages ago. Nowadays, employment is what you generate, what you create for yourself. So women in particular have a lot to contribute in the economy. The participation rates that the World Bank has been speaking about are actually in economic participation, not necessarily in politics.
With business news, Chimobi Walter Naji.
Many thanks, Chimobi, for the business package. Next on the program is newspaper review.
Well, Bayo Achebi is already in the studio here for the review of the papers this morning. Bayo, good morning, welcome.
Thank you, Yusuf. Compliments of the season.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jume.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria. Compliments of the season.
Hope you had a restful weekend.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Let's start with the Punch newspaper and see what is therein for the public or the reading public. Above the masthead, we have the story boldly written, COVID-19, oil price volatility threatening economic recovery. That's coming from the LCCI. And you get that story on page 24. Right underneath it, so lawyers gave 9.4 billion naira bribes to judges in 3 years from the ICPC. And 14 insurers to pay 9.7 billion naira for #EndSARS ride claims. Details on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. And on page 10, Oshomole can't subvert people's will through judiciary, says Shuaibu. The main story on the Punch newspaper is about the doctors, 20 doctors' death. And that is Nigerian Medical Association submits proposal to federal government January 6 prevention and training. You get the details on page 2. And the riders here are travelers from UK, US, worsening coronavirus cases according to the NMA president. And the second rider is 22 FCT coronavirus patients on oxygen in critical condition, that is, says UATH. Below down there we have 3 or 4 stories, one of which is Tinubu, nobody can pay me for my opinion, says Bakari, and details on page 7. Bandits kidnap Niger local government chair's parents, 15 others on page 7. Airlines will pay $3,500 per passenger for COVID-19 guidelines violation, according to the NCAA. That's details of this on page 24. The pictures here, the main pictures is about the, Boko Haram invasion of Borno communities, looted shops and burnt churches. These are, not good stories or good pictures to look at, really, but it's really a sad event. Jimmy?
Quite sad. One of my friends there said they raided the place from 5 p.m. to 4 a.m.
5 p.m.
to 4 a.m.
Almost 12 hours.
Yes. And it continued. Very sad. And the Daily Trust newspaper has, as its headlines, National Assembly spends billions of naira on constitution review. With rider, lawmakers justify endless exercise. It is needless, says lawyers and CSOs. And above the masthead, we see how below the masthead, we see how oil glut, deregulation on stable petrol prices shaped 2020. You find details on page 15. Gunmen killed 2, kidnapped 48 in Katsina village. That details on page 6. Niger Republic poll, partial results expected today. You find details on page 27. And the picture story you see there, against social distancing, protocol of COVID-19, Abuja passengers queue to buy tickets at the Rigasa train station, Kaduna, yesterday. You can see the queue of human bodies there waiting for the ticket and throwing caution to the wind. Kidnappers kill, bury abducted Niger village head. You find details on page 4. Lawan backs Igbo traditional title. He preaches unity. You find the details on page 4. Abducted PFN chairman, wife regained freedom. Find the story on page 7. Housing pressure puts Kano physical planning rules to test. You find that on page 18. Bayo, quite a sad event over the weekend in Borno.
Yes, the crisis, usually, in any time there is going to be a season, either Christmas, New Year, or Salah, the tendency is for the insurgents to try and make headlines by trying to invade society, any closest community. And it started with Garkida, when they attacked Garkida just a few days before Christmas. So it's very sad.
It's getting quite alarming.
Yes.
Across the north, it's getting quite alarming.
Talking about the season, the Catholic Pontiff Pope Francis has called for peace and reconciliation in nations of the world, and especially calling on global leaders to make COVID-19 vaccines available to the world. He says in his Xmas message that in a world of ecological and social crisis compounded by COVID-19, we need to acknowledge one another as brothers and sisters. He urged global cooperation in making COVID-19 vaccine accessible to poorer nations. In his Xmas message, the Catholic Archbishop of Sokoto, Matthew Hassan Kuka, had alleged nepotism of the Buhari administration, adding, if a non-northern Muslim had done a fraction, there would have been a coup. The Minister of Information is quick to react to this, and he says that religious leaders have a responsibility to speak truth to power, but in doing so, they must refrain from stoking the embers of hatred and disunity. Such trust must not come wrapped in anger, hatred, disunity, and religious disharmony. He observed that it will be particularly graceless and impious to use the Christmas period, a season of peace, to stoke embers of hatred, disunity, sectarianism, and disharmony. In another development, Northern Christian Forum, in a statement by Reverend Josiah Nabut, admonished Archbishop Kuka to avoid using the pulpit for political gains. He says, Dr. Nabu says, Kuka's claim against Buhari are rehashed from certain political oracles the Archbishop visits. He observed that the Archbishop is shifting from the purpose of serving the laity and has become a tool in the hands of politicians. President Muhammadu Buhari has condoled the family of Senator Seydou Kumo, who died yesterday morning. While praying for the repose of his soul, the president said the history of the victory of 2019 election cannot be written without the enormous political goodwill of the late Senator Seydou Kumo in the efforts of the APC to retain power. The Senator Seydou Kumo died early Sunday morning after 5 days illness in hospital. The senator represented the Gombe Central in the National Assembly during one term. He serves as a member of several committees, including Deputy Chairman of Senate Services Committee. In later years, he became the Secretary of the All Nigeria People's Party, which then controlled the states of Borno, Yobe, Gombe, and Kano. He contested to be governor in 2011. He holds the traditional title of Garkuwa Gombe. The 3 days prayer is expected to be held in Gombe tomorrow. This report you read about bribes, it is a survey conducted by the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission.
ICPC, yeah.
Yes, and they said that between 2018 and 2020, the bribes that judges got from lawyers allegedly handling electoral and political crisis amounted to about 9.4 billion. It's also said that this was followed in the survey that revealed that the private business sector also ranks second when it comes to contributing to the national level of corruption. There is also a third level. It says the third level is the executive and the legislative sector also had their respective scores. In monetary terms, the executive had a score of about 33, while the legislature had a score of about 27. This was a survey that was conducted by the ICPC across.
But Bayo, when you look at this critically, you find out that 9.4 billion naira bribes, to judges in 3 years only, and that's coming from the ICPC, an investigative body that is.
Yes.
That is supposed to really go through these things, get them, and that's why they got them. Which means the IPC's table is now filled with so many cases to handle in just 3 years.
Yes.
And when you move away from that into the executive and the legislature and the business sector, it's just beyond numbers now.
The worrying thing there is that grants, bribe, is undermining our electoral processes in the sense that rather than people winning election from the ballot box, it is being transmitted to the courts, and willingly or unwittingly, lawyers, as is alleged by the ICPC, are instrumental to inducing judges in the courts. COVID-19, here is the alarm bell still ringing.
Very loud.
Yes. On the eve of Christmas, we had 1,041 cases. On Christmas Day, we had 712 cases. Yesterday, we had 829. By this morning, 839. So far, our cases in the nation has reached 84,414. Presently, we have 12,126 of our compatriots who are in various treatment centers looking for treatment. Between yesterday and today, we lost about 7 persons to COVID-19. And what does this mean? The Nigerian Medical Association has raised an alarm that they have lost 20 doctors across the nation.
That's in 1 week, right?
Yes, in 1 week.
In 1 week.
And so the doctors are calling for critical measures, and they say that they want personal protective equipment to be provided, and they want proper training for prevention to be meted onto medical personnel, doctors and nurses. In the same vein, the president of the Nigerian Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives has also called for a ban on the flight from countries like United Kingdom and USA, especially countries where there is a new strain of COVID-19. And Abdul Rafiu Adiniji is his name, and he says that we need to reactivate the treatment centers in the form of diagnosis, and anybody who is coming into the country must be at least quarantined and treated as a patient for the period of 14 days to avoid the dangers of having this strain coming into our country. Meanwhile, the
we have
university
strain already?
Yes, University of Abuja is also raising alarm. They have in bed now 86 patients, and 22 of them are in critical position on oxygen support. That tells you the level at which we have to be very careful. In the FCT, the task force was around and they are praising the level of compliance. They said that for the churches they visited during Christmas, they are satisfied with the level of compliance. And on Friday, they will be going to the mosques. But in Ogun State, Bishop Tunde Akinsanya has appealed to Governor of Ogun State to please allow crossover New Year Day rallies because it is affecting them. Apparently, Ogun State, incidentally, was the first incubation period of the COVID-19 before Lagos took over.
I can't wrap it around my head why people think COVID-19 doesn't exist. How is that possible when you see people dying?
It's worrying. Incidentally, the Minister for Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Tallen, has also tested positive. How did she discover it? She was testing members of her family and herself because some persons she suspected were asymptomatic had come closer to her. And there you are, she tested positive. If she was not vigilant enough, she could probably have infected her family. She's now in isolation. What that means is that COVID-19 is real. It is not only for the big men or big women. It is for everybody. And once you abandon your guard, you can easily become a victim.
I know they show for face just like HIV.
You see, my worry generally is, you know, the travelers that are coming in from UK and the US. Some countries have already banned traveling and travelers from UK, and others are still on that. But it seems as if we're still taking that lightly, and given the upsurge and the spike in the numbers of coronavirus cases, I think authorities concerned should look at that very critically and then see what measures to take. And even with the opening of the borders too, which some people are saying that may not be really as serious as the airspace, but generally it's really becoming worrisome, especially the airspace being opened up to now.
Yes, the Presidential Task Force is giving a serious thought because they say that there's no sense in rushing to ban flights from United Kingdom or USA or other countries. If you do that, the tendency is that you find people flying into Togo, Lomé, Niger, and then they'll still find their way in. So they are taking their time to find measures to make sure that they plug all the necessary loopholes.
Okay, Mr. Bayo, thank you so much for your input this morning as usual.
Thank you.
Compliments of the season. We'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation will begin.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
In my house, we may look alike, but we are very different individuals. My adorable twins, they look so alike, but they don't like wearing the same things. And my little man, I had to find out the hard way because I've been trying to teach him my way. He loves to learn his own way because doing things his way is more fulfilling. Everybody believes their way is best. That's why Golden Penny Pasta is our favorite meal because due to its non-stickiness, it allows me to satisfy everybody just the way they want it.
Golden Penny Pasta, made with durum wheat, is tasty, nutritious, a source of protein and fiber, and non-sticky. So you can cook, serve, and eat your pasta just the way you like it. Go on and enjoy your Golden Penny Pasta the way you want it. With Golden Penny Pasta, your way is best.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest asset the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth Entrepreneurship Support Years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Do you know that 35% of every girl child and women are raped on a daily basis? Some are killed in the process, some take their lives in shame, others remain emotionally dead for life. It is sad. This culture is not ours, definitely not African. How did we allow bad culture to infiltrate and take over? Even if you lack fear for the law, what of fear of God? And you, why do you cover up rape acts when it happens? Remember, a problem shared is a problem half solved. Never cover any rape act because a rapist is a murderer. It could be you or your loved ones next. Women must be treated like the prize gem they are. Say no to rape.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool!
Wow!
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Logo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. As a prompt for our conversation this morning, which is on ASU strike bridging academic deficit, here is the background report by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
For months, they were on the table, celebrating and hoping for a headway, a better way to solve salient issues bothering the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. But both sides were not ready to shift grounds. Hence, the ASU strike went on for 9 months. The ASU chairman has said the strike was due to failure to implement previous agreements between the union and the government in 2009, 2013, 2017, and 2019. The union had demanded the reversal of the brain drain in the education sector by enumeration of academic staff and exemption from the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information System (IPPIS) pending the approval of the proposed payment system, which is the Universal Transparency and Accountability Solution. Aside this, the payment of arrears of its members' salaries was a contending issue as well. Cheering news came on the 23rd of December 2020 when ASUU announced conditional suspension of the strike, citing continuation if the government fails to honor every issue brought to the table. ASUU reiterated preparedness to resume work if government makes the environment conducive within the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. On its part, the government disclosed that it had already met 98% of the demands. As the saying goes, when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. 9 months in the life of an individual isn't to be taken with levity. Hence, 9 months in the academic calendar of a student is already a session, which is enough for more productive activities, with some heading for 1 year compulsory national youth service. Sadly, these 9 whole months had rendered the students redundant, and to some, it was an opportunity to engage in more productive activities but outside academic environments. Aside this, the final year students will have their NYSC delayed to next year. Now, many have asked how long and how many times will the academic activities of the innocent students always be altered? Also, is strike action the only way of settlement between the government and the unions? Is there any compensation or crash program for the students, and how ready are schools for resumption? These are some of the questions guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be answering shortly.
And joining us via Zoom to discuss the topic is Dr. Chris Ngige, Minister of Labor and Employment. Honorable Minister, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Yeah, good morning.
And we're also expecting to join us via Zoom Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, President, Academic Staff Union of Universities. We're expecting him to join us.
And here in the studio we have Professor Mohammed Mainuma, former Vice Chancellor, Nasarawa State University. Many thanks for joining us, Professor.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
And also joining us via Zoom is Professor Peter Ochebukola, former Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission and Chairman of Council, National Open University of Nigeria. You're welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
And from our Benin Network Center, we have Professor Lilian Salami, Vice Chancellor, University of Benin. You're welcome, Professor.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay, now, gentlemen and ladies, let's look at these issues. We're talking about ASUU and then bridging the academic deficit. But before we get going or get started fully into that, let's hear from the Honorable Minister. It's been long months of, strike, discussions, negotiations, counter-negotiations, walkouts, and the rest of them. But thank God, at the end of the day, a deal has been reached and a deal has been struck. Let's lay the background. What's the brunt? What are the issues? And what's the deal reached so far so that we can now know where to start from? Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You've listed some of the issues, but it's important and nice that we chronicle the events as they came, because in an aspect, one action gave rise to multiple actions, and the demands of ASUU continue to expand. First, President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammad Buhari, who is also the Chief Executive of the Federation by Section 5 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, and is the custodian of everything, the economy, the socio-economic milieu and everything, said that the government is not very, very affluent again. The economy has gone into recession, if you remember, first in 2016, and we're just coming out of it. And oil price have dipped because we're a mono economy. The earnings from oil wasn't there anymore. We were selling oil before at $120 a barrel, 2.5 million barrels a day. If you multiply it, you see what the earnings came to. But now, in 2016, we had our first major shock. Oil sold for $30 a barrel. Militancy in the Niger Delta brought down quantum of production from 2.2 million barrels a day to at one time 700,000, not even up to 1 million. So you have them to look inwards to plug the leakages, make sure that you cut your coat according to your cloth and the rest of it. So in a broadcast to National Assembly members on presentation of the budget in 2019, October, we did say that all federal workers, all people being paid from the coffers of the federal government should go on an integrated payment system, IPIS. It's a device by which everybody is tracked through your BVN and your bank account. You also have to be registered on that platform before you can receive any money. All federal workers complied. Well, at least 90% of them were got on track and captured. And it eliminated the ghost workers. From there, people who were not paying taxes, commensurate taxes were also deciphered, because the IPIS platform made sure your taxes are deducted at source. Again, people who took allowances that are not good for them were also seen, and those allowances were harmonized with what they actually are supposed to get. This was the situation when in February, January, ASU made a case. They made a case that 2019 that they didn't want to go on IPIS. Of course, the federal government said no, and they had problem with the Ministry of Finance and the Accountant General's office. That's our Treasurer, Finance Ministry, and the cashier, which is Accountant General, the payment opening. Thereafter, a strike was declared because by February, the system shut out everybody that was not on the platform in terms of receiving payments. Mark you that all over the world, no employee dictates the employer how he's going to be paid. All over, including Nigeria here, even in the private sector, nobody who is under unemployment will say, you must pay me in check, you must pay me by electronic transfer, or you must pay me cash. The bad thing is that you receive your money as and when due. So this was the thing that triggered off the strike. And by the time ASU now made their demand for the strike, they put up a 9-point demand, including a revitalization fund for the universities, which they had signed in 2009, 2013. In 2013, they agreed that it's going to be 1.3 trillion payable in 6 years. Every year was 220 billion. They also included the payment of the arrears of payment of people in Federal University of Technology, Akure. They included also proliferation of state universities. The federal government should come out with a very decisive act to stem the proliferation. They came out with a demand on Nupenco, which was their pension fund administrator organ, that the federal government should revitalize it and extend the life of that company. That company, by the way, was facilitated for the university unions as a pension fund administrator by the federal government through PENCOM. So the demands were many, of course, including that they be exempted from IPs. So when they came to the employers, the direct employers, Ministry of Education, they didn't make any headway. And when they didn't make any headway, by the Trade Dispute Act, the minister is authorized, Minister of Labor and Employment is authorized to either appoint a tribunal to arbitrate for them, or appoint an arbitrator, or apprehend by himself and arbitrate. So we did the latter because that was
well, it seems we're having some hitches with the connection there with the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment. Let's come into the studio here and then talk with Professor Mohamed Mai-Nouma, former Vice Chancellor at Nasarawa State University. Sir, from what the Honorable Minister is saying, there are lots of issues that have been on the table for them, and they were able to trash it. Now the strike is over, and it seems we are going to go to the classroom any moment from the 18th, if possible. That's what the instruction says, but that one is also subject to review. I wish Professor Biodun Ogunyemi will be around to shed more light on the, on the deal struck. But all the same, you should be in the know of this. What's the deal that has been struck with the government, so that our viewers will know, and then see how far the government has gone in trying to meet the demands, and how far or how magnanimous or how understanding the ASU has been in this issue.
Yeah, there are maybe in summary you can say that there are 4 central issues, and the first leg is the issue of funding, and the government has agreed to make some money available at intervals that they're up to the tune of about 40 billion. And they are also...
When you say intervals, what do you mean intervals here?
Yeah, I don't have the details, right, because I was not part of the negotiation, and I don't know, but I mean, they've agreed to pay at different times. That at so time they will make available this sum of money, at so time they will make available this sum of money, until finally they're able to make the total demand of ASU. They've also agreed that they are going to test the UTAS, that is the alternative ASU had provided for IPs. But you see, that is also an unnecessary thing as far as I'm concerned, because you try to solve a problem where there is a problem, not to create another problem. If payments platform that the universities are using are matters that nobody has said that there is a problem with it, why are you changing it? So that is also, and that is why some of the things are actually unnecessarily created by government to bring these distortions in the system. Ordinarily, if the university is running, like the minister was saying, you also realize that the employers of the university is not Ministry of Education or at the federal level. It is the councils of this university that are the employers. That's what the law provides. So it is not Ministry of Education, and they should, why ASU is dealing with the government at the federal level is to make it have some level of central standardization. So that at the end of it, you have some level of regulation that the NUC can ensure that there is standards within these universities. But in matters of employment and issues of staff, it is the council of this university that should tackle it. So also, government had agreed that all the backlog of the salaries they have not paid, that they are going to pay before the end of January. Again, that was again a matter that was unnecessary, to say that you are holding somebody's salary for months. Because ordinarily, I want to say that we are talking about ASUU strike within the last 9 months, but it is a common knowledge that it is not ASUU strike that actually made people to stay at home. The ASUU strike coincided with the issue of COVID-19 pandemic, and most of these institutions, in fact including government workers, particularly those level 12 and below, were not asked to go to work for all these 9 months. So you find out that it is not about ASUU strike that people were not going to work. But people, because the strike also coincided, and again, the government was not even talking to ASUU for almost 7 months because of a pandemic. So you find out that if they had maybe talked about it and within the period, it wouldn't have reached the level of the 9 months that we're talking about the strike itself. So I believe, like I've said, it is funding. It's about infrastructure, which is also connected with funding. It is about whether or not those that had their salaries withheld should be paid. It is also about the payment platform. So, and government had some agreements on all these issues.
Professor Mohammed, I would like to, they say when two elephants in the intro, we said when they fight, the grass suffers. In this case, students suffer. In as much as ASUU is trying to get what it thinks it deserves, has it ever in any way put the consideration of these students on the table?
Yes, always. In fact, the #1 primary consideration of ASUU is the students. And why I say so is that it is, if you look at since the beginning of, maybe take it from 1978, the major issue that they don't want situation where we do not have manpower that can give the desired level of education to the students. They also are talking about the available infrastructure, that whatever it is, that there should be minimum standard, that these students should be trained in a manner that they can be useful to the society and to themselves. They are also always talking about the welfare of the students, where they stay, where they learn, that it is also, the environment is also very important to ASUU. So you find out that from the very beginning, if ASUU were talking about just the welfare of staff, it would have been easier for the government to handle. Because as it is today, you see a professor at the peak earns not up to 450,000. But there are people working in NPC. Like I used to say, I left a job for 590,000 in 1992 to go and start collecting 570 naira in the university. So, and my students that I have graduated first year, the first employment, they were paid 1 million naira. And it is not as if I didn't have the opportunity to also get that kind of employment. So you find out that it is not what ASUU is talking about is not really the individual lecturers, but it is a system. And that is all about what we are able to produce. And that is the issue. So it is the concern for the students. Let them have education that is of standard, that is comparable anywhere in the world. That is a central issue for us. Was the student union part of the negotiation? You see, the negotiation table is not made by ASUU. Okay. It is the government that decides. ASUU just bring its team. So if government wants the students to be part of the team, government will invite students to be there and they will be listening to. But you realize that students are not in the level to discuss some of the things that ASUU is talking about, because they don't know what is required to produce that level of capacity that is required for a graduate. They are novice in the matter, if you want to. So it may be unnecessary to invite them to a table to discuss what they know nothing about.
Okay, thank you, Professor Mohammed. It seems we are able to reconnect with the Honorable Minister, Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige. Honorable Minister, you were talking earlier on, but unfortunately we got your break. We want you to summarily, in sum, try to, shed more light on this deal, because that is where the solution is, and that is where the heartwarming message is, and that is why the students are happy about. Shed more light on the deal. Let's know what the deal encompasses, so that we can see how magnanimous the government is.
I'm very happy that Professor Mohammed Mainoma did some of these assertions, but unfortunately most of those assertions are not correct. They are not. As a matter of fact, it's the Minister of Education that should be doing this program with you, because he's the direct employer of the university staff via the governing council. Yes, the governing council, there's an act, they are now in charge of the university, but they have the money to pay. They are supposed to generate the money to pay. If they were paying, government would have no business. The federal government and the Treasury, Ministry of Finance, would have no business with this discussion. Yeah, but ASUU is drawing money from the national till. They are not generating their money. The governing council is not generating their money to pay, because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. And the federal government that is paying is saying that we are bleeding. We are bleeding. We have lost blood, a lot of financial blood. Hemorrhage is coming in. I'll give you a typical example. The former system by which university staff were paid is what we call GIFMIX. The GIFMIX platform, in that platform, you send the money to the university, and the university will then, through the bursar's office and the vice chancellors and the staff members, they will submit their details, collect their money from the university. And what was proposed was that the leftovers will be recycled to the next round of payment. But no money was coming back there. And it will surprise you to know that in 3 years, the Joint Tax Board, which is aggregation of all the tax boards of states, gave the federal government a bill of 880 billion as underpayment, under deductions in payee tax, because payee tax is supposed to be domiciliary, based on domicility. If you are staff of Federal University in Anambra State government will take your payee. If you are in Lagos State government takes their payee. If you are in Port Harcourt, Rivers State government take your payee. So they aggregated the short payments made on deduction on that GIFMIX platform, and it came to 880 billion for all the federal universities, and the federal government had to pay. Yes. So these are the things. There also the issue of ghost workers, people who are not working but are taking the money. So GIFMIX platform was not detecting; instead it was aiding for fictitious people to collect money. There was also the issue of lecturers who teach in 3 federal universities, not to talk about private universities, and GIFMIX platform was paying them, because the monies go to the university and the university bursars administer those funds. But IPIS will not pay you twice. To pay you twice, you must be an adjunct lecturer, and when you are an adjunct lecturer, he pays you, I think, about 70% in your second place. That is it. So you can see that this was necessary. I'm not holding brief for education, but I've been part of government. I will understand whatever is
Honorable Minister, I'm specifically, Honorable Minister, if you can hear me, I'm specifically asking that question because Nigerians would want to know what the government was able to give ASUU against what the ASUU asked for, to such an extent that now a deal has been struck and the students are happy, parents are happy, guardians are happy, the lecturers are happy, everybody's happy. If not for the COVID-19, we would say that maybe in the first week of January, students or other lectures will begin in the university, and that's heartwarming news. But what really prompted that? Let's have it in a nutshell. We are part of the negotiation, more or less like the head of the negotiation team from the government side.
We have negotiated. We have resolved a lot of the issues. Negotiation is give and take. As you said, we don't want our people to go on this platform because it's cutting off a lot of allowances that have been approved for us. We have our own solution now called UTAS, University Transparency Accountability Solution Portal. Government said we believe in homegrown things. If you look at the executive orders of Mr. President on local content, executive order 35, we want homegrown things. So we encourage that. I wrote to the Minister of Digital Economy and that's Communication and Digital Economy, and the president they need that subjected UTAS to integrity test. The test is still going on. We fashioned out a hybrid system with NIMSI and the Office of Accountant General with a new portal to capture people who are not on IPs. We'll capture them on that hybrid portal and keep on paying them so that there will be some kind of stability in the system. It is not true, as Professor Mainuma was saying, that ASUU salary was just seized. No. If you go on strike, Section 43 of the Trade Dispute Act says you have a right to go on strike. But if you go on strike, your employer can apply what is called no work, no pay. This is done to protect the industry or to protect that enterprise so that the money there can be used to pay actual persons that are brought in maybe to keep this the industry afloat. If you also go on strike, it is the job of your union to pay you some remuneration for the period you're on strike. That is the law all over the world. And that is why when people go on strike overseas, the strike doesn't last more than 2 weeks. Because the union is supposed to be paying them money to keep them afloat for the period they are away from work. In Section 43 of the Trade Dispute Act, I didn't make the law. It's not Buhari's law. It's not Ngige's law. It's a law of Parliament, National Assembly of Federal Republic of Nigeria. The ILO principles at work also in convention, I think 188 or so, gives workers right to go on strike. But for the period you're also on strike, especially if you're on essential service, your employer can employ persons to keep the industry afloat. If it is hospitals, the employer will keep employ new doctors and nurses so that lives will be saved. So this is the principle at work. So nobody woke up and took ASUU's money. ASUU went on warning strike on 9th and later on declared full strike on the 23rd. The 9th strike, there was no warning. The law says you give 21 days notice.
Honorable Minister.
Nobody just, but even on that, when COVID came, like the professor was saying, we discovered that people were at home, workers were at home and were receiving salary. I went to Mr. President and got a special dispensation to waive off that area of this an unconventional ground where ASUU, because there's a force majeure, so to say. And President agreed. So ASUU was paid their February salary. They worked for February. They were paid for March, April, May, and then June. And we told them now to get back to work and do virtual teaching, which was being done all over the world. They refused. We said, come for virtual negotiation. They also refused. So, Professor, what you are saying is not completely true. Yes, there was COVID, but people were teaching during COVID. They were doing virtual teaching. ASU members withdrew from lecturer teaching.
Honorable Minister, I'm sure Professor Mohammed will respond to what you're saying, but you were talking about the UTAS and the integrity test, which is still ongoing by NIDA, and you also said that they do not have, ASU does not have the money to procure the necessary hardware for the implementation. You also added that there's no provision for the procurement of UTAS software in the budget. Is that one of the gray areas that sort of prolonged the negotiation?
We are making progress. ASU is making progress with NIDA, the technological agency handling the software. They are in the last stage, I think stage 3. I'm not a computer scientist, but the report they gave me, both of them, is that they are stage 3. There is the issue of also of the hardware. The hardware, according to ASU, they have reached an agreement with NUC. It will be domiciled in NUC. I don't know how the hardware will be procured. Maybe NUC and the Ministry of Education and ASU have an arrangement on that. I'm a conciliator. I'm not part of that particular one, but I'm interested in monitoring all these things so that there will be no strike anymore based on UTAS usage and non-UTAS usage. As a matter of fact, whatever they are doing through UTAS must have a handshake with IPs. You must have a handshake. Just because BVN is involved, because biometrics is involved, they now went to the Nigerian Identity Management Commission, the people doing identity card, who have collected everybody's biometric, who knows everybody in Nigeria, and they are now first done a handshake with them, and then the next handshake is with our IPs, and I think the problem will be solved. We are for local content. I'm a believer in local content. I believe in homegrown things. So any support they need to make this thing work, government is ready to give it to them, especially when it will make for safeguard of foreign exchange, because IPs, according to them, is a foreign brokered platform, and some contributions are made in dollars. We don't have dollars anymore. So that one is there. Then the issue of revitalization, like the professor said, yes, we have staggered it based on the fact that there is no money. That negotiation was done, like I said before, in 2013, when oil was selling at $130 a barrel, 2.5 million barrels a day. It is not like that today. So we have agreed with ASU. There is a special committee that has been put in place to look for alternative sources of funding.
We've lost the minister once again, but we'll get back to him whenever, because there are some areas we really want him to shed more light on that. But let's get down to Benin and meet Professor Lilian Salami, the Vice Chancellor, University of Benin. Prof, you've had the twos and fronts, the going forth and backwards of this argument so far. But I want you to look at this issue from the point of view of students. This very topic this morning is ASU bridging the academic deficit. And the students are at the center of this. Against the background of the deal being signed by the government and ASU and the expected resumption of academic activities in maybe the second week or third week of January, all things being equal, how do you swallow this deal against the background or vis-a-vis the backlog of academic activities that was left on the tables of lecturers and researchers in the past 9 months?
Thank you very much. Of course, the news came and we all applauded, but for the universities, it's just opened another phase of problems. And I'll categorize that into 3 major areas. One is the academic calendar that has been bastardized as a result of the lockdown and ASU strike. Second is the quality and time. Third, we're looking at COVID. What do we do with the non-medical protocol? So let me take the first one. For a lot of course, there is no one-size-fits-all here. Most universities will have to deal with the level at which they actually, either ASU or COVID, truncated the process. For University of Benin, we were lucky and yet not lucky, because we were actually the game village for the 2019 National Games. And so we shut down our university earlier than most. So in earnest, we had conducted proper teaching for just a few weeks. So what that then means is that we need to complete that first session and then also try as much as possible to compress the second session so that we can have a full session for 2021, even though we are stepping into 2021 by God's grace. So we have that issue too. Now, if you compress and then you put pressure on the lecturers who are on ground, nothing has changed in terms of the quality. So I must say our students are still going to get quality teaching. But because of the time frame, the pressure will be added on lecturers. So we'll have to monitor. We'll have to plead so that these students will have quality teaching, quality exposure, and then the lecturers are committed to teaching. Now that quickly brings me to the point of, if teaching must be effective, learning must be effective, we must be able to have a teacher ratio that must be held. Yes, we are not saying it can't be 100%, but what we are saying is that what we have right now is a far cry from effective teaching and learning. And so, compounded by the time that we will have to constrain now because of the ASUU strike and then, of course, the COVID, will probably create a big problem. And that is why, from my own angle, I have always said that we need more lecturers, and that must be something that must be taken on the burner as a priority. You cannot kill the willing horse. And so those that are there, yes, we are going to plead with them, we are going to monitor so that the delivery is still good, the quality, we can still ascertain that our students will come out from the other, as graduates that are marketable, not only in Nigeria, but globally. So we need to assist by bringing in more hands, teaching, lecturing jobs. And then I also talked about, the COVID, the non-medical protocol. Now, that is going to create a big issue to the university. Most of the public funded universities are overpopulated, as it were, and now we are just processing another group of students to join the old students. So in most cases, we have 2 sets of new students coming in that must be taught. Now we need physical distancing, we need social distancing. The facilities have not been upgraded. We still have what we have. And so it's posing a major, major problem. So even if you stagger resumption for these students, now already you have bastardized calendar. We have to work around that to be sure that we don't lose 2019, 2020 totally. And so we have that issue to deal with, to contend with. So even if you stagger it, now at what point are you going to now harmonize? It becomes a problem. So like I jokingly say to a lot of people, this is not the time to be a vice chancellor, because truly we have a lot on our hands. And so we must begin to look at different ways of getting to the students. The Honorable Minister talked about e-learning, the platform for e-learning for the students, for the lecturers. Now we all know that a lot of us are not quite there yet. So we must look for unconventional means, which of course my university, for instance, we're beginning to look at other means of getting to our students so that we can try as much as possible to keep quality, to still be efficient, to still be effective, so that our students are not always on the losing side, like my colleague there said that when 2 elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. So we are trying as much as possible to protect our students so that at the end of the day, they get, their money worth. So that is where we are.
Lillian, I agree with you that this is just not the right time to be a vice chancellor in Nigeria with all the challenges. I would now like to join Professor Peter Okebukola, former Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission and Chairman of Council, National Open University of Nigeria. The suspension of the strike brought smiles to the faces of students across the country, but as heartwarming as the news is, ASUU says the strike might continue if the federal government reneges on its agreement. And should this give a sense of hope to our students or a sense of hopelessness?
Thank you very much. First, I'll say this, we have a sense of hope, not hopelessness. I'd like to congratulate the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment for the efforts that have gone into solving this challenge that we've had over the last several months. I also like to appreciate ASUU for getting us to this midpoint. So it's a win-win situation for all the parties. I'd like the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment to note that he has been at the front end of the discussion operation, but at the back end, my minister, Malam Adamu, at the back end, he has been circling, dealing with all these issues, discussing with the parties, and also my executive secretary, that's the executive secretary, NUC, also Abubakar Adamu Rashid. They have been at the back end doing quite a lot of things. That's correct. Thankfully, thank you, sir. Thankfully, we are where we are today. It's not a hopeless situation. I want to assure Nigerians that the government will strive to meet its own side of the obligations as agreed at the conclusion of the recent meeting. So we are more or less, mind what I've said, more or less good to go with academic activities. Please note that our discussion for today is centered around bridging academic deficits. So it's a sign of hope that efforts will be made at bridging academic deficits. So what are the options that are available? I see 4 options. Option number 1 is a recalibration of the academic calendar. When you're using GPS, you can't miss your road. I mean, you have some kind of recalibration to set your path. The National Universities Commission, the regulator, the standards setting organization has been very clear in a release not too long ago by the ES that you've got to meet the minimum standards for delivery, minimum contact hours. What are these? First, you got to have a 15-week semester. You have to have maybe 2 weeks towards the end of it for exams. And then the contact hours for lectures, for practicals, for workshop activities and all of that, tutorials, must also be met. So how will we go to bridge that gap? Model number 1 is Senate of 5 universities that are in charge of academic program implementation will have to convene and see how they meet the minimum standards as set up by the National Universities Commission. So you have to say, for instance, that, okay, University X, you have been offline in terms of teaching, research, and all of that since March. Now, when you were offline in March, you were just 2 weeks into a 15-week semester. So the Senate of the university would then say, okay, fine. You don't have to meet the full, the minimum standards and not have half-baked graduates. You got to implement the remaining 13 weeks. So there will be adjustments. That's the model number 1. That will mean, ladies and gentlemen, that holidays, if you are going to look for 2 months at the end of the semester or 2 weeks at the end of all of that, then all of these will have to be abridged by the senates of the universities. That's model number 1. Model number 2 is also a recalibration. But in that recalibration, you then have to rush the semester and say, okay, fine, we're looking for 15 weeks. NUC is saying contact hours for a lecture that a course that I'm taking, let's say education statistics. The course is for my 2 hours of contact every week for 15 weeks. I would then say, okay, fine, I'm going to have 4 hours of contact. So it's going to be a lot of burden on me, the lecturer, and also on the students. So we can run it for the contact hours will be met, but not the number of weeks that the semester desires. So that's model number 2. Model number 3 is just to be mischievous about it all and say, okay, new students are expected to come in, then let us just rush it all the way through and get it done in as few weeks as possible and as few contacts as possible. Model number 4, ladies and gentlemen, is to say, oh, we lost 9 months. And when we say we're not talking about the entire Nigeria university system. In Lagos State University, for instance, where I work, we've been on ground. We'll be fully online. Online will mean we'll be teaching, so we didn't have any interruption. Today, we have 173 universities, and 67% of the students, 2,144,137 are enrolled in federal universities that have been mostly on strike. The state universities, 28%, and the private universities, 70-something, just 5%. So what we're saying is that for the last model, you say session is cancelled. You have lost 9 months, the session is 9 months, so you cancel it. But that would be unfair, ladies and gentlemen, on everybody. As a striking lecturer, I've been paid, or I'll be paid. The students are paid for their hostels, they have done all of that, and so the model number, the fourth model is a no-no for me. So I see a situation where we take either model number 1 or model number 2, but ensuring that at the end of the day, long or short, our students are not, we do not compromise quality in terms of quality of lectures, quality of practicals, and end up having half-baked products. So the world is watching. You want to see how the Nigerian university system is going to cope with this almost a one-session loss. But I'm hopeful, because the question you asked me is it a sense of hopelessness or hope? Or hope? I see it's a sense of hope that the ASUU and the others will be able to navigate through this minefield. Last point that I would like to mention is that we are not there yet. You know, COVID-19 second wave is in the air, and the National Universities Commission has entreated or encouraged or directed, whichever word you want to use, the universities to suspend academic activities and be very cautious. So maybe at the end of January, we'll have this thing lifted. Also note that the 3 other unions are in course now, spoiling for a fight. NASU is spoiling for a fight. If NASU is on strike, they are not going to open the doors of the universities for us to come in. If SANU is on strike, we are going to have challenges with the administration. If NAT is on strike, we're going to have challenges with the practicals. So no doubt in my mind that the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment is poised to get all of these things all wrapped up. The last point, again, I'd like to make has to do with getting our universities, somebody mentioned it during the course of this discussion, getting our universities to deliver their academic staff that are now on ground, that are now resumed, to deliver their lecturers via blended learning or virtual learning. I'm very proud to let you know that as chairman of council of the National Open University of Nigeria, the best open university in Africa, and the one that has the highest enrollment, we enroll over 500,000 students. The next to us is University of South Africa, UNISA, enrolling 300-something thousand. We have, over the last 3 months, envisioned that this thing will happen. What is this thing? That is, you will need our service in terms of training the academic staff, ASUU staff, even the SANU people, in how to deliver quality ODL. Today, the 28th day of December, I'm proud to let you know that we have trained over 1,400 staff of now to be available to teach. University of Benin, we're ready to come and train your academic staff, train your administrative staff, and all the other 173 universities. So it's a happy day for me, happy day for National Open University of Nigeria, and I'm sure that 2021 will be a great year for all of us. Thank you.
Professor Peter Okebukola, at least you raised so many issues there. And of course, it's heartwarming to know the various options you gave under the recalibration of the academic calendar. And that's heartwarming, really. But it so seems as if there are lots, I mean, a lot of expectation is there, especially on the staff, the lecturers, talking about moving the academic calendar to a certain standard that will give the students some hope. As you said, we are having some hope and not being so hopeless. Professor Mohammed Mainoma, let's look at these calibrations he gave, and let's see where do you as a lecturer fit in and how easy it's going to be for you. These are people who have stayed off for about 9 months of the campus, of the classroom, of the, I know you didn't get off the books anyway because that's part of your life. And the students, for instance, have been away, for quite a while. 9 months is not an easy, it's not a small time as such. So having to come back and face these huge tasks, all right, and looking at the calibrations and then the options he gave on that is calibrations. I don't know, how hard would that be on you as a lecturer?
Yeah, it is not going to be difficult if there is conscious investment, actually. I say conscious investment in 5 major areas.
And what are they?
The first is the issue of infrastructure. You realize that it is possible for lecturers to deliver on 2 times what they used to do if they are aided. If it is easier for lecturers to find materials, to arrange for materials, to do delivery, they can do, instead of the normal maybe 9 hours they do in a week, they can do 18 hours in a week.
Be specific on this issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That if, I'm very specific, that the infrastructure is necessary. For instance, you cannot be talking about virtual learning when the staff themselves do not even have the systems.
Okay.
So you need to provide these systems for the students. You need to provide these systems for the staff. So and also power is also a major issue. You find out that even as we are in the studio now, even to get to other people in Benin, to get to you find some distortions. So that's the kind of things that you also be. Then we also need to develop our libraries, because even the students, if you ask them to take more than 18 hours in a week, you will also need to provide materials that it is easy to grab. So their library must be expanded to the level that they can use it almost 24 hours.
But we're talking of e-library now.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. The e-library, the access to the e-library should be something of 24 hours.
Okay.
We are also saying the manpower, there should be a lot of motivation. What we're talking about now is that apart from the fact that you are paying them salary, you need to pay them extra income for the extra work you want them to do. And alternatively, like the VC University of Benin is saying, that you now need to, but where are you going to find them? To employ people that will also do the alternative teaching. So that is another major area that you need to do investment in, either in paying extra for the staff, for the extra job, but not the one that will wait and say that you are paying arrears. The one that it is going to be almost automatic. At the end of the month, somebody that is getting 500,000, you now make it maybe 900,000 for the additional double work he is doing. Then as a form of motivation. Then lastly, the university management also need to have, you have to do some investment. Let them take away the old notion. You see, when you have people talking about matters like this, it is very important that they shift the paradigm. They understand that it is a new situation, that you need different approaches. Like if you listen to the minister, you don't blame him, because at the end of the day, he's a scientist. At the end of the day, he's a politician. What matters to a scientist is that if this is black, this is black. You don't need to. So that is why the minister is talking the way he's talking. But in reality, you need to appreciate the fact that these things might be in the book, but implementing them might be very difficult. So university administrator must be in that kind of frame of mind that things are different, so they need to be approached differently. And the unions also need to appreciate the fact that it is not because he brought the other issues that other unions are also that we need to take a holistic approach to issues of what I would call welfare. That instead of dealing with ASU and making provisions for what, if it is something that has to do with staff, let it apply generally. Across the board. What will require some differentiation will be matters that has to do with your instruments of work. Then on that matters, you can provide differently. But on matters of welfare, on matters of accommodation, on matters of what you do in the university system, it should be a uniform approach so that whatever is provided for ASU member is also provided for other unions. And that way you will have your peace and you'll be able to navigate in the new circumstance.
Okay, Professor Mohammed Menoma, will come back to you, but I know the minister is itching to respond to what you're saying so that we can, as the program winds up, we'll be looking at the gray areas. But we'll take a break right now. When we return, the conversation is getting quite interesting. We'll be right back.
My name is Nando Jamda Muhammad.
Stevita
Hussein Musa. Roduna Joel Finji. Said Musa John. I'm a carpenter. I've been doing this for more than 8 years now.
And I said that plantain. Nakai Kimami Shekara Uku.
I've been selling my tomatoes for about 10 years now, and I do it for a better Nigeria.
And I do it for a better Nigeria.
Now, when the Sana and Lemune Domin Nigeria to take about and I said Domin Nigeria teacher.
And you can see how we're doing our small little work to make Nigeria great.
As you can see, I'm a technician and I'm doing it to help myself and to help my generation.
Business.
This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
In my house, we may look alike, but we are very different individuals. My adorable twins, they look so alike, but they don't like wearing the same things. And my little man, I had to find out the hard way because I've been trying to teach him my way. He loves to learn his own way because doing things his way is more fulfilling. Everybody believes their way is best. That's why Golden Penny Pasta is our favorite meal because due to its non-stickiness, it allows me to satisfy everybody just the way they want it.
Golden Penny Pasta, made with durum wheat, is tasty, nutritious, a source of protein and fiber, and non-sticky. So you can cook, serve, and eat your pasta just the way you like it. Go on and enjoy your Golden Penny Pasta the way you want it. With Golden Penny Pasta, your way is best.
You clean your teeth every morning, but that fresh breath feeling just doesn't last. The answer? Easy. You keep your teeth strong and healthy and give your mouth long-lasting fresh breath with new Oral-B 2-in-1 toothpaste. It helps strengthen your teeth and gives you long-lasting fresh breath.
So fresh, still fresh, and still fresh.
Stay strong, stay fresh. New Oral-B toothpaste for strong teeth and long-lasting fresh breath.
When I don't hear say them they rape about 35% of them girl picking, and even them women safe. Some of them, they even die in the process. Emotional trauma, uncle, they make some of them be like, say they not did this one again, they don't go, but they still they live like ghosts. Some of them, shame don't kuku make them go kill themselves. It no good though. This no be our culture. It no fit be the African way. Why we can't allow this kind of thing joy body with us so they loud way. If you know they fear law where man put, you know they fear Baba God there. You self, you where they cover mouth when you see mini wana they happen. You know what here when the Oyibo talk say problem where they bring come out. They solve and sharply. Remember, person wey feel rape, if it's a key person, if it be you, if it be your pikin, if it be person them where you love well. So make we learn to carry women then, like diamond where we be. No grief for rape.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. And Honorable Minister, I'll be coming to you now. I am sure you are itching to respond to all what our guests in the studio and from Benin and via Zoom have said. But I still have a question. You know, as you said, the suspension of the strike is conditional. So can you tell us the gray areas that might want them, might make them come back and, you know, return to the strike action again?
Well, they have a right to say that is conditional. Yes, because we had some agreements which we are now put into what you can now call memorandum of action. And in that memorandum of action, we put timelines for action A to take place before this time, action B to take place around this other time, and then we put in February as our
So we've lost the Honorable Minister there, but we'll get back to him whenever the connections become good, and we're really urging he's back. Okay, let's have him. We were listening to you, Honorable Minister.
Whether the actions have been performed as captured in the memorandum of action. For example, not as university unions are supposed to receive 40 billion altogether for. Sorry? I said the university unions are supposed to receive 40 billion before 31st of December for for other members like SANU, NASU, and NAAT. And like the chairman of the governing council of the Open University State, that Professor Okebukola, you don't want to put up a fresh crisis with other unions. So
yes, we seem lost him there. Let's now join Professor Peter. Professor Peter, we've not had admissions in schools now for almost a year, and then there's a long line of, you know, applicants waiting to go into school, from direct entry to JAMB to diploma, and another JAMB is just around the corner. How do we bridge this gap?
Well, I think my friend and brother and boss, Professor Ishaq, you know, has already triggered some action. That's the registrar of JAMB, triggered some action in this regard. But the way I see it is this: if a university A has a carrying capacity of 20,000, and those within are yet to exit, then bringing in another batch will be a challenge. That's why I said that it behoves the Senate of our universities to quickly, very rapidly walk themselves through the regime of recalibrating the academic calendar, so that you know when the final year students will exit and when another batch will come in. But at this point, let me introduce a very interesting indicator, educational indicator, that we are likely to be in breach of in terms of the rating. And that is called the internal efficiency of the university system. Now, if internal efficiency is defined as the rate at which you process the input into the university system, it can be for the educational system in total. I'll give a quick example. Now, let's assume that we admitted 200 into a program, a 4-year program. By the end of 4 years, we expect the 200 to graduate. So the coefficient of efficiency, internal efficiency of that system, is the output over input times 100. In other words, you admitted 200 for a 4-year program. At the end of 4 years, 200 graduated. So it's 200 over 200 times 100. That's 100% efficiency. Now, we're having a situation where you get, okay, let's take the other example. You have 200 coming in and only 50 graduate. So it's 50 over 200 times 100. So you have that efficiency rate reduced. So Nigeria is going to suffer efficiency rate, lower efficiency in the next 1 year. So to make that to adjust in another year or two, we now need to very rapidly get our Senate to ensure that the students that are already in are processed within the minimum standards to be out, so that a new batch will come in. What is wrong, by the way, in getting the UTME to run and keeping that batch waiting for the university system to clear its final year students? That is the thing I'm sure is likely to happen in the coming year or so. So we are going to almost be in limbo for about 6-7 months, but adjustments will come sometime in 2021.
Professor Peter Okebukola, at least there should be some sacrifice really in trying to rebuild, because some destruction has been made initially, and rebuilding means that some sacrifices have to be made, and that is one of them, as you mentioned. Professor Lilian Salami, let's hear your views about how we would really get this system going, get it going speedily if possible. Professor Mohamed Manuma mentioned some, issues that should be tackled if we are going to be really, or rather fast track this very, process of getting the academic systems in the universities really moving. And these include some looking at the infrastructure, some system, maybe computers, talking about e-learning, and then the power system to get these libraries powered 24 hours. And of course, some other measures that need to be taken that all hinge on the need or on finances. The government says it's going to give universities 40 billion naira by the end of December. Do you see that amount as going a long way in meeting these basic needs as students prepare to come back?
When you talk about education, there's hardly any price that can be placed and then that will be efficient enough. But at least let's have what the government wants to give to us. I listened carefully to my colleague, Professor. A lot of these issues are not things that you can get within the next few weeks or few months. Nothing is magical. So what that therefore means is that we must be efficient with what is on ground as we continue to develop, and hopefully will develop to the point where everything becomes very seamless. And that is why, if you listen attentively, the first time I said, I mentioned the fact that we must try to motivate, not necessarily now in terms of quantifying money that will go into the lecturer's pocket or whatever, but we'll do our monitoring. We'll need to plead with them. Now, it is going to be added responsibility, and that was why I emphasized that you cannot kill a willing horse. I did also mention that if we pick even the ratio as it were, even before now, we are struggling to create a balance between what a lecturer should, the load of one lecturer, what the lecturer should teach, or the student that a lecturer should handle, which of course has been, problematic. And now it is even compounded by the situation that we find ourselves. Yes, all those conditions, if they are met, definitely. And that's why sometimes I ask the question, do we ever stop to think about colleagues who actually go for greener pastures in other parts, begin to perform miracles? And here we are, they actually left us and didn't perform those miracles. Yes, all those facilities would of course empower and make any lecturer or workers to be efficient, more efficient in the university system. But we cannot get those now. So we have to make do with what we have. And it just has to do with the human, relationship that we create, the bridges that we build, even on the students. Are we going to now quickly go and build hostels for students to make it better? No. They are going to come, but not right away. So I quite agree that, yes, we need all of that, 24-hour lights, computers, laptops, even our students, indigent students. Remember, we are talking about public institutions. A lot of them may not even have smartphones, Android phones, to even if you were going to put them on e-learning and all of that. So we know that we can also do some kind of, assistance, give some assistance to this student. But right now, it may not be very possible. So we are going to try to do the best of the situation that we find ourselves now, and hopefully that government will live up to their expectation, to their promises, and then we'll begin to have a better university. But then I must continue to emphasize, like I did on, earlier on, that we cannot compromise quality. And so we will make sure that we drive all of this while still ensuring that we have quality that our students need to be able to be marketable. Thank you very much.
You've raised some quite pertinent questions. The brain drain is, causing a lot of deficit in our university education. I would now like to join the minister again. And it's so unfortunate that Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, the ASUU president, is not here to, shed some light on what we are discussing today. Can we have your final closing thoughts? And can you please tell us the gray areas that might bring you back to the negotiating table?
By the 23rd, when we came to our agreement, we don't have much of gray areas anymore, because we have done what we call memorandum of action. For example, the 40 billion promised for ASUU and other unions in the university system, ASUU members to get what is called end academic allowances, and other members, SANU, that's Senior Staff Association, Nigerian Universities, NASU, Non-Academic Staff Union, NAAC, National Association of Technologists Union. They will not get what they did in terms of end allowances. These are things people call overtime, extra load work, and the rest of them all. So we are going to pay that. In fact, that one is ready. By the time we did the negotiation, we were waiting for the National Universities Commission to give an account. So that money, I think by now, has been paid. Because the timeline for its payment is 31st of December. It has been paid. We also have the revitalization. Like the professor said, that's Mohammed. It's not really staggered as such. We have timelines for payment. So 31st of January is the timeline for that. 30 billion. It's going to be paid. The money is not there, but we hope that our collections.
Well, we've lost the minister there. At least he has made so many contributions here tonight. I mean, this morning on this issue. Professor Mohammed Mainuma, we have a couple of minutes remaining on this program. Let's hear your final thoughts about this issue. I mean, bridging the deficit.
You see, like the Professor Peter Bukola is saying, the options available are that if you take the new intakes, for instance, even if you say you are going to do the JAM and defy it, it is still going to keep people at home. So I would like a situation where you can take the very first option he has offered, that people work extra hard, but you can also have streams of the new students, for instance, for this year. For most universities, they are just at their first semester, maybe first 1 month, first 2 months. So you can admit another set of students and then run them parallel, so that and make the teaching such that, of course, the issue of COVID will also compound the problem, but it is something that we can arrange in such a way that at least for the next 4 years, it is going to solve the problem, because these people will continue in that direction. If the issue of efficiency, also you find that some of them will be going to higher level, some of them will remain in that level. At the end of the day, it is the option that may solve some of this problem within the next 4 years. But if we say that we are going to keep the students, do JAM and keep, because the number of people that are waiting to write JAM, even without those coming out of secondary schools, are more than enough to go into the university. So it is better, instead of keeping them to wait for the next 7 months before they can be admitted into the university, let them have a situation where they can have an option as an alternative to go into the university and run a parallel system with those that are existing there. That's if we still have the facilities to run it. Yeah, you see, it is a matter that we can do it. When the issue of COVID comes up, within a short time we are able to assemble money. If government is really determined to raise that kind of money to provide that kind of facility, there are 1,001 ways of raising that kind of funds to run that kind of system.
I hope Professor Mohammed, you haven't forgotten about the fact that we're in recession, number one, and the COVID is there too, number two, and of course so many issues are there. But I think the university will do the best it can whether to get through these issues and these problems. We thank you so much really for being part of this program, Professor Mohammed Mainoma, former Vice Chancellor at Nasarawa University. It's our pleasure being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Chris Ngige, Minister of Labor and Employment, we thank you so very much for coming, and we appreciate your contribution on Good Morning Nigeria today. And Professor Peter Ochebukola, former Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission and Chairman Council, National Open University of Nigeria. It's our pleasure. Your contributions have gone a long way in shedding light on this issue. And finally, Professor Lilian Salami, Vice Chancellor, University of Benin, we are grateful for your contributions. We hope when next we come knocking at your door, you will open and then we get some more insights from your well-endowed brain. Thank you so very much. I am Yusuf Nadabu Usman. Good Morning Nigeria returns tomorrow with another interesting topic. Do join us again. Thank you.
And I am Juma Yusuf. Do have a productive week ahead. Thanks for watching and be safe, please.